Market Musings with Fairbairn and Russell. Welcome to the Market Musings podcast, and it's 2021, and it is the first Market Musings podcast of the year. So, if you can believe it, we've not quite been doing Market Musings podcasts for a year because we didn't quite start exactly in January, I don't think. But, you know, this is definitely our second season, Kenny, if you want to call it that. We'll start a second season on Audio Boom.
It feels like a lifetime, Mark, but it has flowed in, must admit.
It has, and our tally for last year was 96 podcasts. 96, yeah.
How did we not get to 100?
I don't know how we didn't get to 100, but with starting the year, you know, first, or was it second week in January now, I'm sure we can do the 100 mark in 2021. And to kickstart the new year, we're welcoming our first private investor of the year on the podcast, and his name is Jamie Tosh. So you're very welcome, Jamie. How are you?
Hi guys. Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. No, we love talking to private investors, and so Kenny, you're doing
first
okay.
Of the year.
First of the year for you for private. Yeah, first Market Musings podcast of the year. Yeah.
And you've set the target for beating 100.
Yeah, for 2021. I'm sure we can do it. Should be able to. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll manage it, no problem. That's good to have you on, Jamie. Where is it you're from yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Kenny. Yeah, I'm based in a place called Northallerton, which is
North Allerton. I know that.
Yeah, North Yorkshire.
Yeah,
kind of sandwiched between Teesside and York. East Coast Main Line railway line runs through it, so yeah, it's quite well known area. Nice, quiet area. We've been quite lucky with COVID, really. No commuter cities, no large cities around us, so we've been relatively lucky in this area. Things are creeping up now, but let's hope there's a glimmer of hope for 2021.
One would hope so. North Yorkshire did fare fairly well, though, being the best county in the United Kingdom, if I say so myself.
Just because you're from there as well. Yeah, I must admit we're pretty fortunate. We've got very, very low cases of COVID where I stay. I think we're bottom 3 in Scotland. So
that's good.
But we're lumped in with everybody else in this level 4 lockdown. So, don't know, just gone with it. I mean, we were working from home anyway before all this kicked off, so it kind of makes no difference to me. But yeah, it would be nice to get a bit of freedom, definitely.
It certainly would. I think that's been a big change for us as a family of working from home and homeschooling. So that's massive respect to the teachers. I don't know how they do it, but we've give it our best shot.
Yeah, fortunately, mine are old enough that they just got on with it. So I wouldn't like to be in this position where, sort of 6 and 7 year olds that would need constant attention.
Yeah, it could be worse. It could be worse for us, Kenny. I'm 44, so I've got a 20-year-old. Who's just started his investment journey himself, actually. 16-year-old, so 2 boys, and then Lexi's 9. So that's the homeschooling. I just about manage the maths.
Yeah. But no, it's a strange setup. Anyway, but there we go. No, as Mark was saying, it's great to have private investors on, and everybody's got a different story. We've had probably about 5 or 6 private investors on in 2020, and everybody's got a different, stock they've invested or mistake that they've made, or maybe you've not made a mistake yet, or there's lots of different elements to a story. But maybe before we get into your investor story, and if you're up for it, you can maybe just give us a bit of your sort of background, your career, and maybe even further back to your sort of schooling and education, and even your childhood if you want. It's up to you, Jamie, how far back you want to go.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I'm a project manager. I'm classed as a senior project manager, and don't really like that title. Kind of makes me feel a little bit old, but I've got around about 14 years experience in project management, covering different sectors: private sector, public sector, worked with the NHS. Again, massive respect for those guys in where they are currently fighting this pandemic. I think they're doing an amazing job. public sector experience, bit of third sector experience as well, social enterprises. Grew up in Middlesbrough as a young lad. Left Middlesbrough when I was about 9 because my father, who worked in the oil and gas industry, worked on the oil rigs when I was growing up. So that was in the 70s, early 80s, and at that time they were throwing money at trades on the oil rigs. So I think my dad sought a better life, a better surrounding than the Teesside area. No disrespect to anybody living in there, but I went to school in Winniebanks, and that'll probably any of your listeners from Middlesbrough probably know why my dad chose that move.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved to a small village on the outskirts of North Allerton, and yeah, school was difficult. Really, it was not my strong point. I wasn't academic. I was more sporty than anything, and it wasn't. I don't think I hit kind of that academic time for me until I was about 24, 25. It coincided with the birth of my first son, Sam, and I think that kind of sent a self-improving rocket to my brain, or maybe somewhere else, and got my backside into gear and started to read. Go back to college, start to do some planning, setting some goals and targets, and that kind of changed my path, really. I followed my father's footsteps a little bit into the kind of petrochemical, ICI, instrumentation, process control world for about maybe 4, 5, 6 years, potentially. And it was I wanted to change a career, and it was at the time of IT bubble really kicking off, and I went back to college and got my IT qualifications and broke into IT early 2000s, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that took me various jobs within the public sector, with the NHS, and then had a crossroads whether I chose management, project management, or a technical based IT qualification. And I went down the route of the project management, and that kind of was where that 14 years of project management experiences took me.
Yeah, I mean, we actually had a conversation before we done this podcast, Jamie, and we've actually ended up working on the same submarine program in previous roles.
Yeah, that's my current role at the moment. With the company I'm at.
Yeah, it's a small world, but I will have a joke about project managers, because I'm sure you've been the brunt of many of jokes about project managers. But we used to, I'm not naming the company because the person might be listening, but we used to have several project managers in the company I used to work for, and I always used to dread when they come up. Because they all worked off. I don't know if you work off a Microsoft Project Server or something similar. They would come up and they would have this massive, I'm going to call it A1. I don't even know which size.
Yeah.
And they would go through it all, and you would look at your name and you were assigned all these tasks and all these hours. And I always let them do his spiel, and then I would just take the piss out of them and say, well, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Here's how it's going to be. But the thing is, the client loves to see the project mapped out in front of them, and they can go to their meetings and they can talk about it and they can mail it out. And I get why it exists and why these roles exist. But sometimes what's in the bit of paper is not what gets delivered, but they kind of meet round the back, if you know what I mean. They get there eventually. Sometimes it's a case of doing the job first and then reverse the paperwork backwards.
It's nothing's changed. Well, I say nothing's changed. I have a different style of project management, but yeah, we're the brunt of jokes. So you're right. Nothing's changed in that sense. I think there's a story where I work at the moment where one of the project managers had that rolled up piece of A1, the Gantt chart, the project chart, and actually hit somebody on the head with it. Like tapped them on the back of the head. yeah, we don't do that anymore. But my style of, well, just where I am at the moment. The company's a manufacturing electronics engineering company who very, very specialist company that's created a niche all globally. They work with navies and MODs across the globe. They actually make products that nobody else makes, and one of those products, and I can't go into too much detail for obvious reasons, but one of those products goes on submarines. That's gas detection, gas analysis systems, life preservation, really. Wherever there's humans and there's gas, the company I work for has created that niche product that fits into quite a lot of sectors. MOD. They also do work in the hospitality corporate sector, which is obviously taking its whack with COVID. Wherever there's beer or fizzy drinks, there'll be probably one of our products in a cellar somewhere. So let's hope we can spot one in a few months when we go back in pubs.
Yeah, the good thing about a contract with the MOD is you can add a zero onto it. Whatever you priced that, if you priced it at for £5,000, you can add a zero on and price it at 50,000, and it just seems to be accepted. I must admit, when I started working in the base, and I looked at some of the quotes coming in for some, basic electrical work getting done, maybe in a simulator, you're like, really? But because these people are on the preferred suppliers list, they just get paid. Nobody batted an eyelid, but that's just the way it is. You just accept it after a year when you just go on with it. So, but
yeah, I try to keep out of that commercial side from a negotiation stance, but I think our commercial representatives would probably disagree with you, Kenny. I think they probably have quite an in-depth negotiations with quite a few sectors, really. But just jumping back to that project management style that you talked about, and it did exist. It was almost like an unknown art to engineers, cross-discipline, cross-functional teams of the different engineers. What did a project manager do? And over the last few years, I've been really developing my style and obviously and the business's style of how do we project manage better. And the key thing for me, and these are some of the things that I've brought into my investment kind of toolbox really for my own use, is the transparency and the visual control aspect of projects. Because as soon as it's old school on a A1 piece of paper, or even if it's on a computer screen on a Microsoft project plan, nobody other than a PM or maybe one other person in the business can see what it says, or the customer. The engineers and the people who are actually doing the work, or who I class as subject matter experts, they're the ones who need to be driving that project. They're the ones who need to be defining the work and the tasks on that project. And my style really is just supporting those engineers and the business to understand what the milestones are, hit the milestones, the costing of that, the deviation of a project, or potentially risk mitigation, risk identification. And the style and the thing that I've produced is within 10 to 15 seconds of anybody looking at the data that we produce for projects, is they know where it's at, what stage it's at, whether it's feasibility, development, productionization, whether it's over budget, under budget, what the current risks are, and really where those exceptions are in the project, which needs either engineers or senior stakeholders.
So it's a real-time snapshot of where the project's at. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
That's
right.
certainly where the industry's going. And that helped me massively in my investment journey, really, as well.
And when did that journey start, Jamie?
It started by sheer luck, Kenny. I won't kind of sit here and say I did this amazing research and found Greatland Gold, because I didn't. I worked with a guy in the current role I'm in. He's retired now. Good investor, really knowledgeable, and friend and ex-colleague. We used to talk quite a bit about investing. And I'd spent the last 20 years being playing parents, so financial spends weren't really put aside to invest in. We just did the standard savings and the ISAs, etc. Married to an accountant, so that brings with it kind of risk averseness. Need to do a business case to go to the pub sometimes. That kind of person, so very controls money really well. But then we got to a point where we had quite a bit of spare income, spare money, and Greatland Gold was given to me, I think, July 2019. So we first talked about Greatland in July 2019. I then bought in August 2019 after a very short and light research into it. Mm-hmm. Then I don't think I understood Greatland until probably December 2019. And at that point, I digested a lot of the information that was on the market. I'd identified kind of what I thought was a long-term hold stock.
So how did you find out about Greatland in the first place?
It was given to me as a tip by a friend and colleague. A good investor. He said, "I think you should have a look at Greatland Gold," and that pretty much came out of the blue. He'd not shared any other stocks really. He'd shared what he does, how he enjoys investing, and the different sectors of the market, but we'd never gone into detail on a stock.
I mean, for a random sort of tip like that and very little research, then that was you could have picked worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And the real nice thing about this for me, I mean, done quite well in my career, relatively comfortable living in the way where we are. We'd been 18 at the time, I think. Yeah, 18. My 18-year-old son invested alongside me. We'd done some savings from when he was born into an ISA, and that had matured when he was 18. And we released that. And I put some rules to it, sounding like a strict father, but not really. My rules to the money was it can't buy a liability. It's got to buy an asset, or it's got to be an investment. You can't buy designer clothes with it. You can travel the world with it, because that's an investment for me in kind of maturing and finding who you are as an individual. It could put a deposit on a house, whether that's an investment house, but it can't buy a car with it, because that's a liability. So he came in on Greatland Gold. So for an 18, 20-year-old now to have that start is fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a success story for me, rather than what it's gone up. It's given him a fantastic start.
Yeah, it's bizarre enough. I mean, I think we talked about this when we had our chat as well earlier in the week, Jamie. So my son came into it. Wasn't a great deal of money. He won about £2,000 in actually a Navy lottery, or one of these weekly Navy things. Mark, you'll know more about this, being in Navy Reserves. They've got some...
The Navy, the sports lottery, isn't it?
Yeah, the sports lottery, yes. You put like £2 in a month or something, whatever. Anyway, Callum won second prize, which was like £2,000. And he had all these plans to, I think it was, for want of a better term, he was going to piss it against the wall, as most of the Navy guys do, which is fine. And I said, look, come on, let's just have a think about this. You don't need it. He said, right, can you invest it? So I think I bought him some POW shares at 1.5 pence. So he's probably at a sitting 100% up at the moment. So he's delighted, and he's like, I can maybe take it out now. And I'm like, nope. I said, if we manage this carefully, it could be a deposit for a flat. So just wind your neck in. You go on with your job, and I'll go on with my job. But I think he understands to try and save up, 20,000 pounds. It's quite hard, especially when you're 19 years old and you're in the Navy, and most of the options involve drinking. So yeah, I think he'll just let me get on with it, and hopefully I won't lose it for him. But no, it's good that your son's managed to get a good start in life as well.
Yeah,
everybody needs a wee foot up in life, so they do. I mean, I don't care what. I mean, I didn't get a lot when I was younger, but if I wanted money, it was there. You always got a helping hand. So, it's nice to be nice, and maybe when I'm old and needing looking after, I can say, remember that money I invested for you, and you got that house.
That's my plan, Kenny.
You need to look after me now. So
don't put me in a home.
Yeah, yeah.
Look after me.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think I've got any chance of that, actually. He'd be travelling the world somewhere. Just leave me to rot in a field.
Yeah. So just going back to Greyland. So you've held all this time since you said it was August 19. I think you invested.
Yeah, I have. I bought some more at. I think it was when it peaked at it was the GDXJ, and then I think it peaked at 27, 28. Then it dropped down to about, I think it dropped to 17 at one point. I tried to buy the dip. I didn't think it dipped as low as it did. Bought around about 21. Mm-hmm. That was always, I always had intentions of selling that earlier than kind of my main holding, almost like a little bit of a trading pot. So I've kept some of those in the ISA, and I've released some of that profit when it went back up. But it's probably just worth noting that my investment style really is long-term holding of a share. It's not my technical knowledge, and I've been watching some of the Swayzer's charts and listening to Swayzer on here. I think he's fab, by the way.
Yeah, it's
something it really is. He's had some following on Twitter last couple of days. I mean, some of his predictions, some of his technical analysis and what he's called out, some of the success of that is fantastic. Something I'm quite interested in learning a little bit more, some of the basics, more to understand potentially where an entry point would be or an exit point. I think they're the main things I would look at doing. But
that was, you've led me on to the next question. I mean, what is your exit point with Greatland? I mean, because my mindset's slightly different. I mean, if I was in your position, this is just me speaking personally, and I was still holding, I would have taken all my money off the table a long time before now, because the way my mindset would be working, and say, right, if I'm waiting for Greatland to double to, say, 66 pence, because I think it's 33 pence or something today, might take 18 months, might not, might happen 6 weeks, but my mindset would be there's easier options for me to double my money. Maybe taking part in 4 or 5 placings, or diversing it into 4 or 5 other stocks. That's just my mindset. I don't think I could hold that long. And saying that, though, I've held POW shares for the guts of. I'm trying to think when Paul Johnson took over. Was it last February?
Wasn't it?
No, I think it was February 18. Oh, I can't even remember now. My head's fried. But no, it's very, very rarely that I hold. That's probably one of the longest shares that I've held. No, I just don't think I personally. I know Mark would. Mark's more probably like yourself, Mark. You're more like a kind of line with Jamie's.
A holder?
Yeah.
Well, it depends, I think, it does depend. I mean, I held Greatland. Oh heck, I don't know, maybe 2015, I think, or around there. When it was really low, and I sold when it had just about doubled on it. My first ever like one bagger, I sold. But to be fair, I sold because I actually needed the money. But I mean, you take something like a share like power metals. I won't be selling that super quick because I sort of buy into the long term story there. But other stocks, then yeah, I'm if I sort of can double or triple, then I'm probably going to be taking some money out. So it does depend, but
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, it just depend. Yeah, it just depends on.
Yeah,
I think I'm actually getting there now, Kenny, with that approach. Slightly different. So I kind of understand where you're coming from. Greatland Gold's a game changer for me and the family, really. It already is in the success that we've had and the growth that we've had. It's my job now, I think, to leverage that. This is where my mindset is at the moment. Greatland Gold's gone up exponentially from initial investments. Got a lot of paper money sitting there in several different pots, ISAs, just normal share dealing, etc. That allows me to leverage that profit because people always talk about release some profits along the way, take some of that profit. At the moment, other than buying solid silver with it, I don't see what other option I would go for other than investing in. And this is the commodity, the gold, precious metals, rare earths, electric vehicle metals, or battery metals, whatever you want to call it. That's my sector. That's my niche. I can't look too far away from that. I think it comes down. I think it's an engineering thing. It's certainly an interest and ease of research. I struggle with pharmaceuticals. I struggle with the financial markets, whether it's fintech, etc. Yeah. I just don't take the data on board. So I found this market a little bit by luck, a little bit by chance, I suppose. Was always interested in the broadsheets of looking at back when you couldn't really go onto the internet. Always looked at the shares. Always straight went to the mining shares. I think that was always my first port of call. I think it was linked to, you could see the penny shares on there and you could see some of the growth, some of the plus 20, plus 25. And I was always quite interested within that. It took me a while to get there. But this sector and the profits from Greatland Gold has taken me to, how do I leverage that profits? So I've jumping back to just as I'd bought Greatland, I then went through this chaotic period of the just all you can class it as is gambling. It was there was no research. I thought I'm an investor now, and look at I'm doing really well. What am I going to buy now? And I didn't have the skills and knowledge that I've got now to pick a stock on merit, pick a stock on fundamentals. I've heard of another share, somebody's talking about it on Twitter, somebody's talking about it on the message boards. I'm going to invest. When I did that, I had this feeling, I was just sick to the stomach of watching all of the talk, all of the chatter on these shares, and not knowing what was happening. I was invested in it, but I didn't know the time skills. I didn't know, what the board of directors' past performances were. Didn't know about the geographical locations much, the funding model. Created my own tick list of 5 or 6 things I look for. And now it's about, what do I do with that Greatland Gold profit? What's the target? And how do I leverage that?
So you were sort of sticking to what you knew, really, or what you know in terms of mining.
that's certainly where I really can't look any further than those that sector for the next 2 years.
Yeah, well, I was a bit probably pigeonholed as well, Jamie, because I was sort of stuck in the sort of mining rut, but admit in the last 6 months, and just with networking, people have come on this podcast. People I've spoke to offline. Started doing some oil and gas stocks. Started looking at cash shells. I've had my eyes open. There is other opportunities out there, because what will happen is mining sector won't be hot forever, and it'll go cold, and it'll be another sector that's hot. And it's good to. I mean, you talked about that tick box you had. You can apply these fundamentals, these basic checks to any sector. Whatever your tick list is, as long as it's simple stuff, you can pick a company, whatever sector it's in, Absolutely. And you can go through it.
I do think I'll diversify. I certainly will, and I'm really early on that journey as an investor.
It does take time. I mean, I was like Kenny. I was a miner. Like you, I was a miner since 2013 till about, I think, maybe even 2019 or even last year, and I really have started to diversify. And I think it does come, a lot from all these podcasts we're doing and talking to different people in different sectors, and just taking more of an interest in it. And I think it is important to diversify. But it is hard, and because you sort of you gravitate to what you what you feel comfortable in. But something that piqued made my ears prick. I'm sure it made Kenny's ears nearly jump off the side of his head. You said something about you wouldn't know what to do with the money except buy physical silver.
Well, this is taking a small chunk of profit.
Yeah.
So they're taking out the capital gains tax allowance, 12 and a bit thousand. What do you do with that money? Do you put it in the bank? Do you pay a lump off your mortgage?
Yeah.
Do you buy a flash watch? It's a liability, so it's not something I would be interested in buying, unless it went up in value, like a rare Rolex or something. But not really my cup of tea. So it's what do I do with that money? And at the moment, two options is investing in other stocks that I'm comfortable with owning. And when I say comfortable, I really mean kind of I can switch off to them. There's a lot of noise going on all of the time on these message boards, and when I wasn't aware of what the stock's fundamentals were, it was a horrible place to be. You're like a nervous rabbit in a headlights, seeing a prediction or seeing something negative and not knowing if it's right, what you should do. Whereas now I'm really comfortable with the stocks that I own. But taking that profit, for me at the moment, I see that as being used for more stock purchases.
Yeah, obviously, Mark listened to when you said physical silver as well. So obviously, Mark likes his silver, but I'm in a race to 1,000 ounces at the moment. And
are you ready?
Your time is perfect. I'm going to switch on the video. Hold on.
Switch on a video. Oh, heck.
Yeah. So can you see me?
Oh, blimey! Yeah, we can see you again.
You see that, Jamie?
Oh, hang on. Yes, bloody hell.
Yeah, so I went crazy at the weekend and decided to buy a 5 kilogram bar.
How easy is that to sell, Kenny? This is a question, because I'm interested in physical silver, but I'm just worried about struggling to sell it.
So I got that off a forum. There is a UK forum. I'll give it a shout out. There's no harm in giving it a shout out, just once I remember the exact. And it's simply called thesilverforum.com. But it's a paid membership, and not everybody wants to pay money to be a member of a forum. But when you do pay the membership and you go up through the different levels, then there is some traders and dealers on there. And I got that from one of the dealers on there. And I'm not going to lie, I mean, my wife kind of glared at me when I told her it was £4,000. But to me, there's no difference spending £4,000 in one bar or £4,000 in a load of coins. So it just gets added into the pile. I think I'm up to about 700. Must be about 700 and something ounces. I've got a spreadsheet set up with everything I've got. So,
well, it's certainly on the increase as well, isn't it? Over the next 12 months.
It seems to be. Yeah,
I mean, must admit, it's lovely. It's kind of thing. It's just a German bar, so anything that the Germans build and make, they always do
well
properly. You know, I was saying to Mark earlier on, it's got the security certificate built into the bar. You know, it's just like a different level. But
are you into silver then? Are you Jamie? Is that because you mentioned that? Why did you mention it? Is it because you feel it's a good investment, or do you like the idea of holding it?
I think I like things. I think I like tangible things. I think that's why I like the mining sector. You know, it's whether it's the finance sector, etc. You know, can you touch it? No, you can't. And physical silver, physical gold, you know, it's there. You can't take that away. It's in the ground, and you know, the tangible things and understanding a little bit about the mining sector and the different phases. That's a tangible. You know, they're drilling the cores. You can see the cores. They take the pictures of the cores, and you know, looking at the news today from Power in the visual mineralization. You know, it's there. It's tangible.
I mean, I bought my first gold sovereign just recently from the Royal Mint, and it arrived at my house, my parents' house in the UK, just before Christmas. And I was showing my dad, and he said, "Oh, I remember. Yeah, I think it's either his father or his grandfather had it." And he said he remembered. He said to him that his grandfather had said to him, "Whenever, as long as I hold this sovereign, I'll always have money." And yeah, it's very true. You know, you have it in your hand. It's yours. It's physical. It's there, and no one can take that away from you. Well, unless your house gets robbed, I suppose. But you know, you should make sure you've got adequate security. But you know, it's there in your hand, and it's real value that's held in there. And you know, that's it's very important to have that, I think.
Oh, the way I look at my silver collection is it's my bucket list fund. So I'm looking sort of 5 to 10 years. I'm hoping it's going to be worth about 100,000. And then, you know, if you want to go and do that round the world cruise, or you want to go and, you know, go to the Canadian Rockies, or whatever it is you want to do, you just sell a bit of silver and go and do it.
Okay.
That's my plan with it. But then, listen, I can go up 4 times in the next 6 months. I'll probably flog it, you know. So so it's all driven by. It's an investment, and if the investment goes up and it goes up too quick, I'll take the profit. As much as I like it sitting on my desk and it's nice and shiny, and at the end of the day, it's still money.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So you sound like a very sensible man, Jamie. You know what you're talking about. Do you have any hard and fast rules that you apply to your decision making, or do you have any sort of goals that you're aspiring to in your investing journey?
Yeah, I didn't. But I do now.
Good.
I didn't have any rules. Obviously, talked about before. Greatland Gold, amazing tip. And when we could go out for meals, I'll take my colleague and friend out and for a slap up meal and thank him. I then changed to what I'd class as a research based model. So have several buckets. I actually use Stockopedia. Using Stockopedia to create shortlists and ideas of shares, and they may come from articles, they may come from message boards, or again tips from other people. Collecting those ideas and putting them into shortlist categories, whether it's speculative, high risk, medium risk, low risk. Moving those through into eventually owned shares, following several kind of performance metrics. Board of directors is a key one for me. Past performances, geographical location is important, but not massively opposed to high risk areas. I don't switch off if someone mentions Cameroon or Botswana or wherever. You know, people would Mali maybe is another one. I think wouldn't be opposed to investment in those areas if it was the right stock. Funding models is a big one for me. Learning a little bit more about that at the moment. Cash in the bank, or how are they funding those exploration and activities through placements or other ways, preferably. The locality to existing infrastructure, I always think, is really important as well. Potentially speeding up the process. So again, probably talking a little bit more in the mining sector for me, but TELF is a key example of that locality and towards existing infrastructure and how that's sped up that process. The Ballarat mine might be another example linked to ECR and power.
Yeah,
with their 13 locations. So that I look for that. That's a big tick in the box. Usually, existing infrastructure might mean potential to JV as well with a large cap. Again, all helps funding that development and that drilling campaign, which isn't cheap.
Yeah, no, there's lots of things. I mean, see, once you start writing things down, and then you've got it. Even if you done it in an A4 sheet and you just acetated it or whatever you call it, I can't even remember. That's right word, isn't it? Acetate. And then you've got your tick list, and then you can just clean it off or whatever. If you do it electronically, everybody's got a different way of doing it. But no, I mean, I think mine's just in my brain now, and you kind of go into autopilot when you're looking at a stock. And don't get me wrong, there's a couple of times I'll buy very quickly without doing a lot of research, because there's just something that jumps out to me, and I just know that I've got to buy it, because it's probably an impulse move, but there's something that just floats my boat, and I probably shouldn't. And I don't get me wrong, I do get them. I get some of these calls wrong as well, but I don't know. Maybe it's like a sixth sense sometimes. A good example of that was
everything's that learning opportunity. Yeah. Even if it does go south, there's a learning opportunity there, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, one stock that I bought last week was Lex Gold. Now, the story how I bought this is really bizarre. So we had Gulag Capital on Yaroslav a few weeks ago. I don't know if you listened to that Buy the Dip podcast that we've done. Anyway, cut a long story short, there was a stock that he identified called Lex Gold, or Lexington Gold, sorry. And I'd never heard of it, which is unusual. But it turned out it had been a reverse takeover. It used to be Richland Resources, and it became Lex. And I thought, I'll need to have a look at that. And I never did. And then I was in a conversation with somebody else, and they happened to mention it. And I went, oh, I forgot to look at that. So I looked at it, and within a minute, I had bought it. So sometimes, even though I like to research everything, I can be impulsive as well. And I bought that stock, and I bought it 2.75, 2.8, 3, and I think 3.1, and they were paying 4 today. So sometimes you get it right.
But I think that'll always be part of my journey as well. I'm quite impulsive. I struggle with decision making in my shares, my own shares, and I suppose that's another system that I've kind of created for myself, and it's ripped from project management, really, of risk and opportunity scenario planning. And I've done this. When you find yourself in a situation where you don't know what's going to happen to the stock, and you can listen to what's going on in the market, in the chatter on Twitter and LSE and some of the Telegram groups, etc. And there's such a wide range of advice and potential scenarios on there get played out. I wasn't asking myself what would I do in a situation. So what I've done is I've created kind of risk and opportunity logs for the stocks that I'm in, linking to cause, risk, implication, and what would my action and decision be? Because I am quite impulsive, and I may, if I don't make a decision, I'll jump about on what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, give you an example, and we might be heading to a bit of news this week potentially with the Scallywag, Great Gold Scallywag update. But what would happen if that turned out to be a bit of a duster? Potential's there, and if following the system that I use is kind of cause really. So as a result of us not knowing, or there's no evidence for mineralization, or where the market or the investors don't know what's happening from a mineralization perspective, Scallywag, there's a risk that it will be a duster or it'll be uneconomical to progress. That'll lead to a negative market reaction. There'll be definite downturn for Greatland Gold, a drop in share price, a sell-off. And what do you do in that situation? Because you can get caught up in that. You can panic. And me knowing the way I am and listening to the different people online, etc., I think I would jump around. I think I would get in a situation where I may make the wrong call. So I've already decided long before Scally's come out what I would do in that situation, just by following some basic questions. And I do that with most stocks. Go through and say potentially, what's the risk? So Cordal is another example. I'm not actually in that anymore. And that was one of the ones I bought without realizing or really understanding what's going on. But Mali, potential takeover or potential, coup in that country. Those are the things you can actually set as scenarios and make your choice of what you would do in that situation. Would you ride it out? Would you cut your losses and go? And then all of the noise within the market and all the noise within experts or so-called experts of what they would do, because they're very quick to give advice on posts. You've already made that choice and you stick to it. Might turn out to be the wrong one, but again, that's just a learning opportunity for me.
Yeah, it's almost as hard to sell when there's a drop as it is when the share's rocketing. It's probably the exact same emotions. So as you're going through, to try and reach that decision whether to sell when you're up 200 or 300% or to sell when you're down 50%. I'm amazed nobody's ever done a study just to see what the thought processes are and what's going through people's minds. It'd be interesting to see, but it's interesting that you've done that. I mean, I'm purely money motivated. Well, I'm not purely money motivated, but I'm pretty money driven. So usually it's a profit that dictates or the loss. Sometimes I'm quite happy just to sell at a loss. If I lose 30%, I'll just take it and just move on, and I forgot about it 10 minutes later. I don't.
You're always going to get them.
Yeah.
People will be lying if they haven't got them 30% drops. I mean, I've got Tomco. I bought Tomco just before a big crash. Where would that be? Probably January 2020. Didn't really understand what COVID would do. Didn't realise it was going to be as bad as it was. Bought Tomco. Did a bit of research. Quite liked what they were doing. COVID hit. And that crashed. Lost a little bit on Thor as well.
Yep.
Thor was one. I think Thor will do quite well actually, but I think I bought it at the wrong time. Well, I did buy it at the wrong time, so that's dropped. And didn't act on Avacta. I got tipped Avacta by the same person who tipped me Greatland. So you'd think I would have learned.
Yeah.
But they tipped that at 17p.
I'm trying to think. Did it go by
£1.80 was it?
Yeah.
£1.80 was its highest.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's every day's a school day. in the AIM casino, or just the stock market casino in general. So every day is different. I think that's why people come back, because you just don't know what's round the corner. See, if it was predictable and it followed patterns, people would be bored and they wouldn't keep coming back. So, but
it would feel like work. It would feel like real work, Kenny.
yeah. Fortunately, Mark's in the same position. We've both taken that big step to. Well, Mark didn't stick two fingers up to his dad because he used to work for his dad, but I certainly I stuck two fingers up at a few people in my old job. Yeah, I took a good bit of pleasure in a few home truths, shall we say. But that was just a frustration thing built up over a few years. But just to finish off then, Jamie, obviously what's your goals or targets? What's your overall, not just a year exit? Have you got an exit route for everything? Like a portfolio exit route or
I'm not too sure about an exit. I don't think I've got that far in the thinking, but I actually, and this won't come too much as a shock to my current employer, because I'm quite open and transparent about what does 2021 look like. Because for me, it's a pivotal year. For me, I'm not too far away from actually doing what you guys have done, and kind of walking away. I probably won't stick two fingers up. It's not got to that stage yet, but that, I think, financial freedom, time freedom, and eventually, when the kids have kind of give us my life back and departed, is locality freedom. I like to do a bit of travelling. Mm. So I think the investments I've got at the moment, and I'm building some relatively large holdings in power at the moment, and I've got two other shares I'm looking at building $1 million plus share, at least $1 million plus shares ownership. I think I'm not too far away from actually walking away and doing this full time or investing full time, but I'd still like to support businesses with project management expertise and maybe support them through their early stages. If it could be a junior explorer, I would bite their hand off. I wouldn't even need paying for it. I'd quite happily do it for the experience. But I've set a target of potentially 5 investments with $1 million plus share ownership. I'd like to grow that into over $1 million profit over the next 2 years, linking into this niche of commodity market, a commodity boom that I think is going to come. I will diversify. I'll take your guys' advice and do that research in other markets. But that for me is my aim. It's getting my time back, using the knowledge, using Greatland Gold to leverage those further investments, pick the right companies, potentially, and I don't think I'll pick another Greatland, but I do feel confident in certainly the ones I've got at the moment being able to allow me to do it full time.
Yeah, no, it's quite a big jump. I mean, the markets are good just now. I know the COVID situation wasn't great and the markets dropped off and everybody was, well, this is terrible, it's the end of the world, but it really didn't last that long. It only lasted 4 or 5 weeks and they were recovering. It's when you get market conditions like that for 12, 18, 24 months, then it really hurts. I've been there before. I've had a kicking and I lost everything, and that's probably why I'm so hungry just now and determined. But if I'd left my job in 2010, 11, 12, and I was trying to make a living out of the markets, there was no chance. I would have been stacking shelves and Morrison's or Asda at the weekend, and probably doing 2 or 3 jobs, or just trying to get any work, because I don't know. There's definitely danger out there. So there is. The key for you and is just to try and make as much money, and then lock the profit in. I mean, you're talking about power metals here. I mean, I've got a decent holding in power metals, and I've held from pretty low down, and there's a bit of turmoil going on in my head at the moment. I mean, it could go to 5 pence, it could go to 10 pence, it could go to 2 pence, but I've got a nice pot of money there just now, which is pretty much life changing for me, and it should be an easy decision, but it's really hard at the moment to let it go. I'm probably, over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to think long and hard about it, because to kiss that money goodbye after it's taken so long to build up would be silly. But on the other hand, I think it's got a long way to go. But at some point, the sensible part of my head's going to take over the emotional part. And I'm hoping there's a bit of news or a spike or something happens with it, and that's my exit route. I'm not saying I won't buy back in, but it would be nice to take, it's a good bit of money, it's 6 figures. It'd be good to take it off the table and just sit there for 2 or 3 days and sort of refocus and say, right, what am I going to do now? I can still take another position in POW, smaller position. I can leave it and I can stay on for the journey. Then I can go and start looking at other investments and make that chunk of money that I've taken work for me. I think that's key. So it's not until you write, and I've done it a few times in the last couple of weeks, when you write everything down, you can have all your online broker accounts and your balances, but when you actually write everything down in black and white and you hand it to somebody, I wrote it down a couple of weeks ago and I showed it to Paula, and she kind of looked at me, and she didn't need to say anything, it was in her eyes, and she was scared, because she's like, is that cash? I went, no, it's shares. So she was like, you need to sell them. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, I think my wife would be the same, Kenny. And she's really supportive with and has been with Greatland and the other investments. Sorry, but I think written down and say 6 months' time, where potentially Greatland could be in a different position and Power could be in a different position. I think she would be grabbing me by the ear and saying, release some of this money. And I think I will. It's what you do with that. We live a relatively simple life. It's, nice house, or a modest house. We don't buy flash cars, don't buy flash clothes, don't eat in flash restaurants by choice, because it's a nice holiday. But I'd rather be at the moment in this exciting period that I'm going through, and maybe I am lucky, and I will get stung. Going down this road.
The chip I have on my shoulder is, I'll be open, I used to own my own house, and then obviously things went a bit Pete Tong, and I ended up renting, so I don't own a house anymore. So that's the problem I've got. When you write it all down black and white and you go, that's actually a house. So I can go and get a house. Not right away, but I could put 50, 60, 70% in a deposit down quite easily. But I don't want to lose that as well. You know what I mean? So my head's in a bit of turmoil. So it is at the moment. I know what I should be doing, but I'm just trying to find the right moment I'm comfortable with. But the way the markets work might take it away from me. So no, I'm going to have I'm probably going to write it all down again, and I'll have a talk with a few people, and I think I should be looking to take some of the profit. And it doesn't matter if it's Power Metals, if it was Nostra Terra, if it was Red Rock Resources, if it was Goldstone Resources. It doesn't matter what it would be. It just so happens that it's Power. So no, you're probably at the same stage as me with Greatland. I would imagine I'm maybe a wee bit further down the line. You're starting to get these wee niggles in your head, saying I should really be taking something off the table.
I've already actually made that next trade in my head with Greatland. It's written down. It's done. That is, if Scallywag turns out to be uneconomical for whatever reason, I'll ride that dip, knowing the Havron has got the fundamentals and to recover that share price. If Scallywag is a hit at a peak of that increase, I will be selling a percentage of Greatland to top up my ISA and invest in other shares.
Oh, I'd be selling all pow. So I wouldn't sell a small bit.
You'd sell all of Greatland.
I would say no. This is if pow went in the run for whatever reason, if it's news or just market momentum or whatever, I would sell it all. That's what I'm going to do. Sorry, I want that position where I can take the money off the table and I can sit at a weekend and say to myself, right, that journey's taken 18 months, got a great result out of it. What I'm going to do going forward and just reassess, refocus. I mean, I've got other investments as well, but
you wouldn't leave some in there for the long term, just in case. You'd call it. You'd just call it, and that'd be it.
I've got wants, Mark. So I mean, I've got the option of wants, but no, I would probably I would need not closure, but I would need to take that off the table, and then just okay. I'm in that position to say, right, I can. You've not got that pressure. It's not well, it is pressure in a way because I've already showed the bit of paper to my wife, and she knows it's. She knows it's it's potentially a house, so it'd be nice to at least take it off the table and then say, right, okay, we're going to take X, Y, Z out of the business, put it in the ISAs, whatever, with a view in the next. Problem is because I've left work, I need 2 or 3 years worth of books before you can realistically go and get a mortgage. So this is my second year of books is just went in. So really, I need to probably wait to, I think May the 31st is the end of my next tax year or business end, sorry. And that'll be 3 years worth of books going in. So realistically, I'm probably looking at buying a house till end of this year. That would be my target. Okay. But it'd be nice to take that money off the table and have it sitting there. Mm-hmm. So that's the turmoil that's going on in my head just now.
Okay.
And most people I've spoken to have said, you made a lot of money. You've done well. Take it off the table. And I'm probably getting there to make that decision, and I'll do it. But I just need that exit route. I need something to say, right, this is the right time. So, but I've got the wants for upside, so it's not the end of the world.
Okay.
But no, I would take everything off the table. That'd be it done.
Well, okay.
So anyway, sorry, I've probably rambled on.
No, it's fine.
But
no, it's nice for me to hear.
Yeah,
because I don't make any bones about where I am on my journey as an investor, and podcasts and being part of things like this it's learning for me. It's learning different styles, different opinions. Not want to think my opinion's right every time. So the more you hear, the more you kind of shape your own style as an investor.
Everybody's got different financial positions as well and different status in their life. So it's all these factors come into it. My turmoil is that I know a lot about the POW story, and I research all the Australian stuff, and I don't want to lose that association with it. You know what I mean? But I need to, because it's right for me and it's right for the family. So I'm going to make a decision pretty soon. So anyway, we'll draw a line under that. It's probably about an hour we've been talking, I would think already.
Yeah, it's over an hour. Yeah,
over an hour. I know I've been rambling on, Mark.
No,
first podcast of the year, and I've been talking.
So excited to get going. Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as you mentioned silver, that was it. Got me. That's what it is. I think I've got silver fever today because this big this bar arrived, and the cheek was when the postman delivered it. It's heavy. It's really heavy. I mean, 5 kilograms of silver. Oh, it's big, but it's not really that big. It's really heavy. And he just kind of come up and just left it in the step and walked away. I'm like, oh, I didn't know what to say to him, what was in it, but they just take a photograph of these things now, and as far as they're concerned, it's delivered. They leave it in your step, it's delivered. So
that's scary, isn't it?
I know.
5 kilograms of silver on your doorstep.
Yeah,
disappearing.
No idea.
Disappearing.
Scary.
Well, listen, Jamie, it's been great talking to you, getting your bit of your story, your insights into investing. As I say, you do sound like a very level-headed chap, and we've already had some success, and long may it continue for you.
Yeah, let's hope it does, and for you guys as well. And it's been really good to be part of the podcast. I've listened to probably every single one over the last few months. Yeah, I really enjoy it. Whether it's chief execs and the Swayzers charts, etc. I think you're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you. It's good to get that feedback.
Yeah, well, I'm just about to speak to Swayzers in the next half an hour because I'm doing a chart cast with Swayzers tonight.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes. But no, it's been great having you on, Jamie, and you'll be once you've made your decision with Greatland, maybe once Scallywag is out in the public, you can maybe come back on and tell us what you've done, and hopefully by then as well I've made a sensible decision for the family and my pow holdings.
I like that. I'll switch the if you see this camera get switched on, I've bought 5 kilograms of silver.
Yeah. Great. I don't think I'll be buying too many of them, but no, it's nice to have. It's great to bring out at a party. Imagine you're in a party and start talking about silver, and you bring that out. So
good to keep like a massive tarpaulin down as well. If you've got like an outdoor event in 2021, you'd be able to put it on one of the ends, flapping in the wind.
Well, bizarrely enough, on that particular, just to finish off, you can edit this out, Mark, and then we'll say cheerio. And that forum I was on, there was one guy selling a 5 kilogram bar, and his current use for it was a doorstop. That's what he used it for. It just held his door open.
They used to put it in curtains, didn't they? That's where they used to hide the silver coins.
All right.
It was in the drapes, so that instead of back, I don't know how long I'm going back here. A bit of a history buff, antique buff. They used to turn up the curtain drapes, and that's where they would hide the silver.
All right, living them.
Make curtains hang nice. Don't put your 5 kilogram in curtain.
I'll probably take the curtain rail down, and
the rail will come down.
Probably a lintel as well. Okay. Right, we better say cheerio, Mark.
Thanks, guys. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks very much.
Right. Thanks.
See you later.
Do that.
Thank you for listening to another podcast from Market Musings with Fairbairn and Russell.